Welcome to Spider-Verse Minute, the tri-weekly podcast where we watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 1 minute at a time. I'm Sean Slater.
And I'm his sister Caroline.
Today we're going over minute 5, which begins with Miles slapping his name tags all over town and ends a minute later with his dad complaining about the menace Spider-Man.
Do you want to know what I named this one?
What did you name this minute?
Tag, you're it.
We start the minute with Miles running down the street listening to Familia on his headphones as he's slapping his tags all over on different things. We see him
Street.
Yeah, we see him do it on a
Newspaper stand, an ATM sign, and a street sign.
Yeah, I looked up the street to see if it was a real street sign, and there is I believe it's pronounced with.
Wythe Ave?
Yeah, there is a Wythe Ave in Brooklyn, Wythe Ave in Brooklyn.
I think I've walked by that place in Brooklyn, to be honest.
Very possibly. It is a kind of long street.
Yeah.
But I also tried to see if there were any middle schools nearby to see if, his might have been based off of any. There's one kind of far away from it, and so I'm imagining he probably goes to a fake Brooklyn middle school. Or at least there's,
Probably.
not one super close to where he was. It's nice to see that for small things like this, it'd be easy enough to
just make up a street.
yeah, like one of the artists' names or something for that. But it's nice that
Or even
they
picking something from the comic. But no, I agree with you. It's nice to see they chose an actual street that's in Brooklyn. Did you notice any of the other tags on the signs?
I noticed there's one and it looks like it says look or ook or something.
Yeah, it's look with 3 O's. I paused specifically on this because I was really curious. And it has a man's face on the top. I don't know who the man is. I can't tell if he's like some kind of boxer or some kind of like superhero or what. I do find it funny. It's just look with 3 O's.
And did you catch the other one?
I didn't take note of that one. There's one on the newsstand, and I couldn't tell if it. At first, I thought it said Rosie, but then I got a better look at it, and now it looks like it might just say Most or like maybe Mose or something. The writing on it is a little too connected for me to fully make out letters.
Yeah, that one. They're always really hard to read if you're not really sure what you're looking at.
Mm-hmm. But no, on the sign, I only noticed the look sticker. Mostly because I thought that was just the funniest thing. It's like, why is there 3 O's?
Yeah.
Did you notice also when he was like slapping the stickers on? I noticed more on the sign, but I think they did it with the other ones too. Is that I forget what minute you mentioned it. But in a previous episode you mentioned how when he was tapping his throat, you could see a bit of the hit marks.
Yeah.
Like that they do in comics. It's showing up here again when he's slapping the stickers on the signs.
Yeah. Especially when it cuts to like the shot from behind of him where he hits it, and yeah, this shot, specifically the shot of him slapping the sign, does something that's seen in a lot of good action movies and like good. I've seen Bruce Lee talk about it a lot, but it's where when you do a cut for like a hit or something, what you do is you show them, you'll see the hit, and then when you cut, you actually go back in time a little bit and you'll show the hit again. And it's a way to help connect the two scenes together, whereas in a lot of like modern day action films or action scenes, you'll see where they come through and it'll be like a hit, and then when it cuts, it's them separating again to make it easier on people who aren't as like skilled at combat, stage combat. And faking it, they don't have to practice as much or as long trying to get that down.
I will say, as someone who took both armed and unarmed stage combat, it's a lot of drilling to get those right, and if you don't have the distance correct, it's very dangerous. In both cases, using just your fists, and even like I've used swords. So it makes sense that they would do that just to make it a little safer, is probably one of the big reasons. Because if you're not as good and if you're doing a close shot too, it's if you don't have that technique down, you could very well just hit your like actually punch your partner in the face.
Yeah, and they don't have to worry about that in an animated film. They can throw them off a building and have them be fine.
They're fine.
I'm curious where else he slapped the tags down, because we see him place 3 down here, but we saw him leave the house on top of his notebook. He had more than those 3 stickers.
We know he's done it on at least, I think it's
2
other streets his dad mentions.
Yeah, but that was yesterday. I'm talking about.
That was the day before, yeah.
Yeah, we see him do it.
Oh, you mean like of that day?
Yeah, there's 6 stickers on top of his notebook that are clearly visible from Monday's minute that we see. So there is either he didn't get a chance to put them all down yet, or there's 3 that were missing.
You think he's ever put one on one of his friends as like a goof?
Oh, definitely.
I would do it.
Like a kick me.
Like, hey, buddy. But you just have Miles like on your book bag.
Yeah.
That would be hilarious.
Property of Miles.
Like, well, yeah. Like, hello, my name is Miles, and it's just on your book bag.
Yeah. I also noticed on yesterday's minute when his dad was putting his slipping his laptop into his bag, he definitely does not have enough stickers on there for somebody whose laptop that is. Like, that laptop should definitely just be covered in stickers.
He's like me. He likes to keep his laptop nice and pristine. He's like, the laptop will keep nice, but everything else, stickers.
And then when Miles falls in front of the car and his dad throws up the sirens, I noticed he yelled as he was falling. He shouted out "Contra."
I didn't catch that. I'm gonna have to go back after this and try to listen for that, because I missed that completely.
It's really hard to hear because it's right as he's the music's pretty loud and like in focus at that point, and so when he says it, it's right there in the background. But that's some more Puerto Rican slang for dang.
Are you sure it's actually Miles and not the song? Because I believe at the part they're playing, he is like rapping in Spanish.
It's definitely Miles. Because in the script it has him saying that, and B, it's overlaid with like it's in the middle of another word in the song.
Okay, I'll have to go back and listen for that because that sounds cool.
Yeah. These are also pretty surprisingly empty streets for being potentially 7:30, 8 a.m. in the morning. You would expect there would be a lot more people going places.
I will say this: I've been to Brooklyn, and it's relatively like the streets are relatively empty. And I've been at many points. I've been there Friday nights. I've been there decent mornings. Like it's just a pretty empty neighborhood. Like you might see like 1 or 2 people, depending where you are. It was the same in the Bronx too. I went up there pretty early in the Bronx once, and there was only a few people out, if any at all. So I wasn't too surprised by the fact that there weren't too many people. But no, I do get what you mean.
Yeah, especially at a crosswalk. I feel like there should be more people milling about, doing their things.
You'd be surprised how many crosswalks in New York in general are empty. Some are beyond crowded, and then some are like no one has ever touched this place ever. It's pretty funny to me, like, and it can be just like the next crosswalk over, and it'll just be like this place must be haunted or something because everyone's avoiding it like the plague. But in the very next one, it's like, what is going on here? I can't move. There's too many people. New York, man. It's a weird city.
And then on his, the front of his dad's car, you can.
I was gonna bring this up. The thing I noticed when the car's coming up, you notice his license plate RFD-960. I didn't know if it had any significance. Did you find anything on this?
Yeah, it's a Easter egg from Law and Order, the original run, where that was the license plate that they used throughout the whole series, for the
Through the whole series?
car, like throughout all of Law and Order, not like the many
the
spin-offs.
many of many Law and Orders there are.
And another neat tie-in is Miles's dad's voice actor also was on an episode of Law and Order.
Was he the criminal suspect? What was he? Do you know?
No idea. He was in the episode Dignity. He was just some character.
He was just he was the body.
I didn't write that down. I can look that up for Friday's episode.
Take note of that. That would be cool to bring up. That's actually really cool that the dad's voice actor was on Law and Order, and his cop car has the Law and Order license plate.
Yeah, I also, if I remember reading, I think the mom's voice actress was also in an episode of Law and Order as well. Different episodes.
Yeah, it's a joke in the musical theater / stage community that you've made it in theater when you've made it onto a Law and Order episode. Whether that's SVU, Law and Order. I think they even made a joke about it at the Tonys this past season. Who was James Corden looked to the camera and looks to all of the different Tony nominees behind him and goes, "Law and Order's bodies," and everyone raises their hand. It's like, yeah, we've done it. So it's funny how you'll see so many theater actors who have appeared on Law and Order. It used to be Friends, I think, at one point.
Yeah.
And then it's just Law and Order. That's where you find all of the non-famous famous people. The theater famous people.
Yeah, so he falls in front of his dad and
police car.
And I think I want to know how long it took Miles to get to that point, because I don't imagine that his dad just parks his cruiser outside the house in the morning. So he's got to go to the station, pick up the cruiser, and then start. Oh no,
they might not live that far from the station.
Yeah, does he? Because he was talking about getting a ride. So if he would have taken that chauffeur, would he have been in the cruiser?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I feel like, I don't think you typically take your cruiser home at the end of the day.
I don't think technically, no, you're not allowed to take the cruiser back to your house.
So is his dad just going to carry him? Is that what he meant? Is that why he was denying, being a chauffeur? Is he didn't want to be carried by his dad to school again?
I think the idea is that they don't live too far away from the station, or at least wherever he picks up the cruiser. So
I think his dad was just offering to carry him on his back, and Miles didn't want him to do that again.
He's like, "Dad, I have a book bag and a rolling suitcase. Do you know how ridiculous this is?" You know what? I love that idea. That's my new headcanon.
So then, was he just following Miles around? Did he notice the tags yesterday, and did he decide to follow Miles to school today?
I don't think he was following Miles around, because for him to approach the way he did with Miles, he would have had to have been a block over. So maybe he just knew, maybe he just knew Miles's route, and he's like, I'm gonna go get this kid, because maybe he saw the 2 stickers yesterday, and I'm like, I'm gonna grab him.
That's where the other 3 stickers were. Miles didn't wait long enough to start tagging up the neighborhood, and his dad saw it and is like, ooh, that boy's in trouble. And so he came and picked him up.
He probably knows Miles's route to school.
Yeah. But I loved the way when his dad, after they got, Miles got in the cruiser, and his dad asked him, or was like, I don't like you tagging up there, you got to pick up your stickers. And he's like, you saw that? I don't know if that was me.
I don't think it was me.
That immediate, oh no, I've been caught. And then oh, I got to play it cool. That's right. Got to play it cool. It was
yeah, I also appreciated how immediately after that conversation, he tries to relate to his to Miles by saying, "What's this new coffee shop called?"
Yeah.
It's like foam party. Foam party? Is that a coffee shop or a
Disco. Just like, you're old.
And Miles just goes, "You're so old, Dad," or like, "You're old, Dad."
Yeah.
And his dad's response is like, "Old" or something. I didn't catch it well.
You gotta update your references. Like,
Come on, Dad.
when our dad would ask his students about, like, what's the first thing you do when you answer the phone? Or you call someone on the phone, and it's always, you ask them, "Hey, where are you?" But, when he was younger, he always said, it was like, you didn't have to ask them where they were. You knew exactly where they were. They were standing in their kitchen because the phone was attached to the wall. And there was only about 4 feet in either direction that they could move before the cord, the length of the cord ran out.
I thought more of Mom, who, bless her heart, she doesn't get many video game references, but there's the one. She's so determined, and she will always reference Portal, the cake is a lie. It's her go-to, like, I'm cool with the kids. It's like, Portal was so long ago.
Yeah, Mom, that reference now is a decade old.
Yeah, like, we need to update your video game references. But she loves that reference so much that it cracks me up every time she's like, "I get that reference."
Yeah. And, speaking of the foam party, in the commentary track, they were talking about how just to get that logo that you see for maybe a second, if that, they went through about 50 different logos. And it took about 17 rounds to pick, a really good use of their time just to get the logo for Foam Party. So
I think after going through all that effort, they should open a food truck or coffee truck called Foam Party.
Yeah.
And do it to like promote something for the movie or a opportunity missed. Since we're in the car, I do want to bring this up because it's kind of the only time we hear this song. Playing on the radio is Memories by Thutmose. Sorry if I said that wrong. And I just thought it was to touch on it quickly, I thought it was a very neat touch to just kind of have it playing on the radio. I don't know why, but I love the idea of Miles's dad just playing this like pop style R&B music while he's patrolling.
Yeah.
Like he's just driving, patrolling, a call comes in and you just hear memory. It's like in the background. I love that idea. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I picture his dad being, listening to like Earth, Wind and Fire on the
No, you know what it is? I bet you Miles has the same music relationship with his dad that I do with our dad, where I show Dad new show tunes or something, and then he'll play it in like his classroom, and his students are like, "Mr. Slater, you know this song?" And he goes, "Guys, I'm cool." And then I have to go, "Dad, I showed you that song." I bet you that's the relationship.
Or, his dad, it's not necessarily that direct, but, the dad picks up and he's like, "Okay, I gotta start listening to this. I gotta become cool. I gotta get hip with the kids." And then he makes references like, "Oh, is that a disco?" And he's like, "Nope, you're
so old, Dad." Yeah, or something like that. I bet he's. The more we talk about Miles's dad, the more I realize he's just the cop version of our dad.
This sequence is really cool too because this was one of the first sequences done, animated and recorded, and they actually you can really tell even early in the recording process, the two voice actors have a good rapport with each other already. And they even to try to get as authentic of a feel as they could, they recorded the voice actors sitting like they were in the car. So Miles's voice actor was sat behind and a little bit off to the side of his dad's voice actor.
That's pretty cool. That's great. I do also just love the sequence too because you get such a defining relationship between them. You get the quick early dad reprimanding son, like, you're gonna peel off the stickers, like, you're being a kid, and then very quickly you have the dad trying to be cool with the son.
Yeah, trying to connect with him, and even though he did just scold him and reprimand him for what he was doing, he still wants to get along, and you can tell like the relationship, like Miles isn't nearly as close with his dad as he is with his mom.
Yeah, and you see a pretty good closeness later in the movie. I actually am really excited to talk about that part when we get to it, because it's a very short sequence, but it's also a personal favorite of mine between mother and son in like most film. But again, we'll get to that in a later minute. I do want to talk about the breaking news that we drive by. Above the subway, there is a screen, like a TV, and it says, "Breaking news, earthquakes rock tri-state area, Spider-Man saves dozens." And if you listen to what the speaker is saying, it's saying another mysterious seismic event hits New York, and that people close to Spider-Man report he's looking into it. And so once again, we see reference to the earthquakes that are happening.
Yeah, it's that seismic event again, and it took me until my like second or third viewing when I realized like, oh, this whole seismic event earthquake was the particle accelerator going off the first time
Yeah.
that night, and that all happened 6 hours ago pretty much. I didn't really realize how quickly the events of the beginning of the movie happened. Like, it's all within a 24-hour period.
Well, and the thing I like about specifically this sequence right here, that about with this breaking news, and I think it was the previous episode, we said, oh, one of Miles's friends said, "Did you feel that earthquake last night?" You're like, oh, there's
Yeah.
only one. But this one, it's like earthquakes, which is like, oh, this has been happening more than once.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that whole, you get like, oh, this has been happening for a while, which I think is just like a really cool, it's like interesting moment to me.
Yeah, and the news network reporting it, NNC. I do always love seeing the different ways that people parody actual news networks.
I noticed it was also 8:15, and I tried to catch what the weather was, like what the temperature was, but it was just blurry enough that I could not make it out. I'm like, dang it, wanted to know that.
Yeah, so they start school pretty late there.
Well, yeah, I found that interesting too, because I don't think I mentioned this, but in like when we first meet Miles and he's packing, his clock clearly says 7:30.
Yeah, so it's been 45 minutes
and it's now 8:15, so it took him 45 minutes
to get ready, rush out the door, start walking, and then get to this point.
Say goodbye to his mom, tag the thing. So we now have a time frame.
Oh, and another thing with the way they parody real life things, the police department is PDNY instead of NYPD, which is a pretty common one, but it always makes me chuckle. And I always wonder why they don't just do NYPD, and if it's something like, oh, it's a kind of copyright thing, or and they have to get permission to use that, or like why they don't use real.
It might depend, because I know CSI New York, they said NYPD.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a legal thing or if they just chose to switch it or what.
Yeah.
I think even like, again, to bring back Law and Order, full circle, no, I'm kidding, is like they also say NYPD.
Yeah, it'll be something I should have looked up, but just thought of it.
I didn't even think of it, to be honest. It's like, oh wait, I know a lot of shows that say that. I wonder why this movie didn't. That's really all I have for this minute. We don't get much of the rant, but we do start getting some of the rant.
Yeah.
And like you get to see the disdain that Miles's dad has for Spider-Man. How does he start? It's like, oh, Spider-Man. Oh, this is the one phrase I do like that he says. It's like, Here's Spider-Man going zip zap zop. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know why I really like that he says zip zap zop. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it is always funny hearing the way the way people like make the sounds for like the sounds that superheroes make. Zip zap zoop thwip.
Yeah.
You know.
I can't wait till we get to that
Yeah.
minute, but that's getting ahead of myself. Because I'm pretty sure that minute, or like around that minute, has like my favorite joke in the whole movie.
The only other thing that I wanted to touch on was Miles's voice actor today.
Did you want to talk about that today?
We touched on his mom yesterday. Figured today would be a good day to touch on him. This is the first minute where he's in the majority of it for the full thing. Yeah, so he's voiced by Shamik Moore, who is a 24-year-old rapper. He makes me feel real great with being the same age as me, pretty much. And all that I've accomplished in my life. It's
you have a job.
And he's known for Dope from 2015 and The Get Down in 2016. And his family's from Jamaica, and he was grew up in Atlanta. But, you know, he's younger, so he doesn't have nearly as long as a resume as, you know, either of Miles's parents do. But, you know, it's neat that they got, you know, someone younger to play Miles.
And shout out to his voice actor, because he really has a lot in this movie in general. And he does a fantastic job. One of my favorite parts of his, like, showing off his voice acting is, you brought it up earlier, the whole, you saw that? I don't think that was me. That quick switch was just so genuine. It's like, you saw that? I don't think that was me. Like, it was so, like, on the ball, quick and natural, and it's just, to do that, great. It was such a good job.
But then that was all I had for this minute.
Yeah, I don't have much for this minute. We mostly covered everything I wanted to talk about.
Great. Then thank you for listening to Minute 5. Join us again on Friday, where we'll cover the next minute.
Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.